The nation of Britain is sanctioning the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. All as right-wing converts are reportedly surging inside the church. We're going to take a look at the sanctions. We're going to see precisely why so many conservatives are converting to Orthodoxy. And make sure to stick them in the very end of this video when I'll reveal how all of this indicates a massive trend going on all over the world that's going to change things as we know it. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. I am your Patriot Professor. Happy to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. It's being widely reported that the United Kingdom has targeted Patriarch Kirill, who's the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, in their latest rounds of sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or what Russian officials refer to as their special military operation. Patriarch Kirill has indeed been a staunch supporter of the military operation. We've talked about that in other videos, seeing it as a tragic but necessary step in decoupling what many call the orthosphere, the reawakening of Russian Orthodox civilization with Moscow at its center, from the radical woke liberalism of the secular West. It was in many respects an unprecedented move by a Western government, which generally maintained strict separationist politics between church and state. But as we'll see in the course of this video, that ship has sailed. Those days are officially gone. Now, reaction to the sanctions has been mixed, to say the least. The Russian Orthodox Church itself has condemned the sanctions, calling them absurd, quote, attempts to intimidate the primate of the Russian Church or force him to abandon his views are meaningless, absurd, and futile. However, what others are noticing is that these sanctions, they seem to go beyond simply Patriarch Kirill's support for the military operation. Others are seeing a more sinister attack on the Orthodox Church itself, precisely because the church has seen of late a massive surge in what NPR calls FarRight Converts. According to NPR's report, Orthodox churches are literally exploding with massive numbers of converts, many of whom are, according to NPR, hardcore political extremists and white nationalists and supremacists. In other words, Putin-inspired orthodoxy is attracting hardcore racists. And what's so interesting in this article is at no point did it address the fact that Russia is actually one of the most multi-ethnic nations on the planet. There are over 100 ethnicities inside the Russian Federation. In fact, the Russosphere has always been highly multi-ethnic, and so has the Russian Orthodox Church. So that incongruity seems to have slipped past the NPR writer. Obviously, she was pushing a narrative rather than news. The attraction to orthodoxy among politically conservative Christians, especially those interested in geopolitics, right? It's not a mystery. I've experienced it in my own life. I'm an Orthodox convert myself. If you're a Christian who's very concerned about geopolitics, about the political order that governs the world, and if you're particularly interested in traditionalist challenges to the fledgling globalist world order like we're seeing coming out of Russia, the Orthodox Church naturally becomes very, very attractive. The Orthodox Church, particularly in this case, the Russian Orthodox Church, provides a sacred space where I don't have to leave my concerns about political and economic global orders at the door upon entry, which is so often the case with so many American churches that just completely lost any discernible geopolitical awareness for the Christian faith. I've been Orthodox for 15 years now, and I can tell you that in regular conversations I have with fellow parishioners and Orthodox all around the world, they're very, very geopolitically informed. And that's because Orthodoxy itself, by its nature, is geopolitical. Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox, Romanian, Bulgarian, Armenian, Coptic, Ethiopian, and we can go on and on and on. Orthodoxy, particularly for many of us converts, Orthodoxy at its core is the perfect, it's the perfect balance between heaven and earth, eternity and time, kingdom and nation, church and state, that actually provides a kind of geopolitical theology that has a radically powerful influence in shaping the lives of the Orthodox faithful. So, I got to say that as an Orthodox Christian myself, I think this NPR article is very misleading, very reductionist. It frankly reads like a baseball fan trying to describe a cricket game, right? Or a football fan trying to explain rugby. Here's our UK references. The NPR author just seems really out of her league. But that said, all of this is pointing to a much bigger picture, a much wider trend that's going on all over the world that I think is radically significant for the kind of world that's rising out of the ashes of Biden's and the EU's crumbling globalism. But first, if you like my shirt, I love this George Orwell, did I call it or what, right? Well, you can get yours by clicking on the link below and getting some of the best merch gear out there. It's a great way to support this channel and spread patriot hope far and wide. These designs are punchy and fun, but they are not going to last for long, so make sure to grab one for yourself. Grab one for the patriots in your life. Click on that link below or go to store.turleytalks.com. That is store.turleytalks.com. All right. What we don't want to do here is we don't want to miss the big picture of what's going on, what the real significance is of these UK sanctions against Patriarch Kirill. However, inadvertent on the part of UK politicians, they may not be noticing this, but I would argue that what we are seeing here is a very definite blurring of the line between church and state, or more broadly, between religion and politics. In other words, the sanctions imposed by the UK recognize, again, however tacitly, just how political the church is, in this case, the Russian Orthodox Church, and it recognizes just how religious the state is, in this case, the Russian state. The fact that sanctions are being imposed indiscriminately, regardless of whether you're a member of the church or the state in Russia, demonstrates just how much these two institutions have begun to align themselves with one another, especially over the last 20 years. Over the last couple of decades, scholars have grown increasingly aware of the return of a distinctively orthodox unifying vision of church and state in Russia, a vision known as Symphonia. And Symphonia it's a political theology that envisions a cooperation between church and state as a manifestation of the unity between heaven and earth in the incarnation of Christ. Church and state work together as a lived-out extension of the reunification of heaven and earth in Christ, who is fully God and fully man. So with Christ himself as the foundation, there is no separation between church and state in the strict separationist sense. There is, of course, a distinction. The state is not the church, and the church is not the state. But this distinction does not entail separation, not in the hard sense, the separatist sense, like what we see advocated by globalist secularists in the West, like the UK often. Instead, the church and state have historically worked together in an accommodationist relationship, not a separationist, but an accommodationist relationship, as the two work together for the benefit of human society as a whole. And this is precisely what we have seen return to Russia in an extraordinary sense, particularly under the presidency of Vladimir Putin. And these sanctions from the UK, however inadvertently, are bearing witness to that. Russia has officially decoupled itself from the radical secularization of Western liberal governments, which have all marginalized the church and faith in general into the private sphere of life, monopolizing the public square, and increasingly bringing in some of the most bizarre examples of wokeness imaginable. Russia has declared its official independence from that secular liberal world, and Russia is hardly alone in this. Religion and politics are once again merging all over the world. Even the Chinese Communist Party today sees itself as more Confucian than Marxist. There's a massive Confucian revival going on as we speak among Chinese leaders. Think about it. I mean, a neo-Orthodox Russia, a neo-Confucian China, a Hindu nationalist India under the Bharatiya Janata Party, a theocratic Iran, a fundamentalist Pakistan, a Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. A new world is rising, a world where the ancient myths and rituals that birthed the great civilizations of the past are all reawakening. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing, a bunch of British sanctions can do to stop it. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded. It's a very, very special one. It's on Jordan Peterson teaching Joe Rogan about the cross. It's been seen by over 500,000 people, and you're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.